Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at this virtual event. I'm Crystal Hartman, for those of you who do not know, Chief Chaos Officer for the Arkansas Center for Data Sciences, which is more so known as ACDS. So ACDS is an organization dedicated to building and retaining top data science and IT talent in the state of Arkansas. And one of our main objectives is to facilitate apprenticeship programs in the state with companies large and small across all industries. So we're excited to host this event today as part of National Apprenticeship Week, which is a nationwide celebration that brings together business leaders, career seekers, educational institutions, and other critical partners to show their support for apprenticeship programs. Today's event, Day in the Life of a Developer, features Nikiya Simpson, Instructor and Developer at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences College of Public Health and the lead organizer of the Google Developers Group, Little Rock. So we're looking forward to having Nikiya share her experience in and expertise of being a developer. If you have any questions during the discussion, feel free to drop them in the chat, and then we'll also plan to open for Q&A at the end of the event. So let's dive into what a day in the life of a developer looks like. So thank you, Nikiya, so much for being here with us. Can you just take a moment, introduce yourself, and share a little bit about your background?
Sure. Okay, again, my name's Nikiya. I work here at UAMS in the College of Public Health. I've been here for 11 years, so it's been a journey from entering the workforce to where I am now. I started off, I got my undergraduate at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock in Management Information Systems, and I minored in biology. So I always knew that I wanted to blend both computer science and science and health together. So that was always the dream job, and worked here right after graduation for a little bit in geriatrics and translational research. Left and I worked as an analyst at Axiom for 6 or 7 years. Okay, I think it was 6 or 7. Well, I started off as a client delivery analyst there, and then transitioned to decision support analyst, where I did mostly ETL processing from working, taking the data from a data warehouse and moving it into a smaller data mart, and it was used to support campaign management tools and business intelligence. And then decided, well, I want to go back to working in healthcare again. I wanted to work in public health and to help with education and research and service and things that were provided social impact. So that's what drove me back to UAMS. Started off just doing one web application development project where I did taking secondary public health data and transforming it into something that was interactive, that had maps and the community, people in the community could use. Started off with that project, led to many other projects here at the college, and I've been here ever since, just working on things from public health research to institutional research. In the past year or so, we've been working on digital health products, working on a stethoscope application to provide low-cost applications for people to do heart monitoring. So lots of opportunities for development, and that's pretty much where we're here now. And now this semester, I've been thrust into teaching. Not thrust. That's not a good word. I've started teaching SQL because for the majority of my career, I've been using SQL as data analysis and also as part of our data development projects. And so I teach that to our MS students as well as some of the bioinformatics students here at the UAMS.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
So the big question, what is a typical day in the life of a developer?
Well, I know that sometimes we seem to think that a developer just codes all day long, and that is not always the case, especially for me. I've been a smaller organization, so being the main developer, at least right now for the majority of my projects, I also have to help plan and talk to users and organize how we're going to implement projects. So that means a lot of writing, a lot of documenting, a lot of meetings, and then setting priorities on what features we're going to implement so that we get the most value out of that. So it's a little bit of a dual role. You got your program management piece, the development piece, and then analytics a little bit too. So days can vary. I see, like in my background, there's a code day behind me and with a smiley face, because that was the day that I actually got to write code all day, because that's those are the fun days where you can just sit there and just write code and just listen to music. But then there's days where most days you get 2 to 4 hours of code, hopefully during the day. Mondays and Fridays is a lot of planning, meeting with the team, my supervisor, to figure out what are the priorities for the week, and then planning according for the rest of the week. I also do some adding tasks to our task list in Asana, or you have a Trello board where we prioritize our task, and then at the beginning of the day, the software will give me a list of the things I'm supposed to be doing that day. And those are the priorities for the day that we go off of. So I have a really nice planner that I use that I would suggest everybody get. It's a productivity planner. And I have my most important thing that I need to get done for the day. And then each usually it's like 5 tasks. One is your most important thing that you're going to get done that day. You do that first. Then the next 2 secondary tasks of importance. So we have 2 other things that are important to do, but if they don't get done, do the first thing, and then 2 other things. So it's a lot about making sure that you get the most value out of your day, and those are tips that are helpful for me.
Do you ever run into a situation where you have your day lined up and you're ready to go, and then it just completely gets, kind of kiboshed, and you have to work on something else?
Absolutely, that happens all the time. So yeah, you have your day all planned out, and then the dean of the college or somebody says, "Hey, we've got something that's taking priority over that right now," especially in COVID, because we're working in public health and there's issues that arise that need attention immediately. So those things go to the side. Mm-hmm. and that happens. And then we just monitor and adjust. This developer life, tech life, it's all about being flexible and adapting to change, because it's change is inevitable. You're going to change. Things that change rapidly.
A great, lead way into the next question. So then what are some, attributes or skills that someone in your role, what would make them successful to have?
That's a great question. Flexibility. When we talk about the tech skills, we talk about knowing, SQL, knowing web frameworks, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But those are things we can learn. But the being able to, one, be flexible to change is a really important skill to have, and also be able to learn. Tech is ever evolving, so you have to be able to learn constantly, and you have to have you have to kind of crave learning, because that's a really important skill to have. Also, I would say, in addition to be flexible, I wrote a note down that I wanted to make sure I made a point of saying. Being open to feedback. A lot of time with me as a creative, I have these babies, like my projects are kind of like you see them as your baby. And you spend a lot of time in creating stuff, that when you talk to your users and your stakeholders, they'll have feedback, and you have to separate the product from your creative side sometimes, and you have to be able to be open and listen to that feedback and say, okay, diversity of thought is important, and even though I see it this way, this is going to be what's best for the entire organization. So being open to feedback is a great one. And know that Google is your friend. No one knows everything. So don't feel like you have to know everything, because I have not stopped I use Google every day, and I've been doing SQL and web development here at UAMS for over 11 years, and I still use it every day. So
Okay.
take advantage of all your resources.
So, kind of thinking back about the beginning, 11 years ago, has that role, or, the skills that are needed, and kind of the just the characteristics of a person for a developer, has that changed, from 11 years ago to now?
Oh, yes. Um, like, for instance, when I came here, everything was the framework was .NET, and all of our databases are SQL Server, on-premise SQL Server. And even though that's mostly still the case now, the the everything, the tech has evolved. So now we're thinking about taking those on-premise SQL servers and the projects that we can move to the cloud, where it's a more flexible, scalable environment and there's less overhead. So you'll see those changes in technology where we can implement those changes. Over the last 11 years, we'll do that. Also, when it comes to one of like the projects that I did when I first came here, was a web-based project, and everything was desktop-based, when we realized that our users in our community were accessing on their phone. So we had to change the website into a more responsive design, or change aspects of it to where the people in the community could use it from a tablet or a phone and still get the results that they needed. So it's about staying ahead of those curves, doing some research to make sure that you can see those trends coming. But yeah, it's just the trend of technology just changed over time in the last 11 years.
I mean, so we all know just from the few, kind of questions right now, but what are some ways that developers add value or impact large businesses?
There's just so many different ways you can. It's such a broad. It's a broad term, developer, because when we think of it, it could mean you could be working primarily on the web. You could be working in data and business intelligence tools. You can work in process automation, infrastructure. There's so many avenues, security. There's so many avenues of where you can provide value. I think it's about what motivates you. As a developer, I would get in the field that really speaks to you. But developers can contribute in so many different ways to a large organization. I think it's just about finding the path that really fits for you.
Okay. So, kind of thinking about that and just different roles, is it difficult to attract strong developers into, or to an organization, or kind of a twofold, is there a skills shortage, that different individuals could start focusing on to make them more marketable?
Um, the skill shortage is a hard one, because I feel like there's lots of resources out there to get everyone the skills that they need to be in the job that they want. I mean, whether it's online courses, there's free online courses, there's YouTube, there's organizations like Arkansas Center for Data Sciences. I mean, there's so many areas where we can get those skills. If it's for that part, I say that I think that the skill set is there. We just have to kind of drive people in the right direction. I think there's a lot of developers out there that are looking for work. They just don't know where to go, or they don't know what exactly to apply for, or are not applying because they feel like they can't apply because they don't have a certain skill set. I think that I think my advice is always, if you know some of the job description, apply for it anyway, and then see if it's, because you don't have to wait until you have all the check marks off to apply for that job. So that's my recommendation there. As far as attracting strong candidates, specifically for Arkansas, I know that when I traveled to San Francisco, maybe or earlier this year, and one of the questions, well, what tech companies are in Arkansas? And my response was, besides the top, the normal, your Walmarts, your Tyson Foods, I said, well, you don't have to necessarily be in a tech company to work in tech. So I want people to understand that, there are opportunities here for you to work in tech, and you don't necessarily have to be in in one of the big tech companies. The issue with Arkansas maybe it doesn't feel as attractive as maybe a large city like San Francisco or Austin or places like that. But if we can focus on finding companies where you feel you fit in culturally, you have a good culture fit for the company, diversity is encouraged, and there's opportunity for the company to fit the lifestyle of the candidate. I think those are ways that we can attract really good people, is to focus on those aspects to get those people here.
Funny that you mention, it doesn't have to be a tech company for someone to be a tech professional. And I guess, it's weird that people haven't not really thought of that. So, as you're mentioning that, I'm like, gosh, every company has, human resources or operations or marketing. So tech would be just another department. So you can almost go into any. So I think kind of shifting that mindset where you don't have to go to, the new tech company, and all organizations have tech involved with it. So you went over, the next question that I have for you. But if you could give advice to organizations to go about attracting and engaging the best talent, what would you say to them, or what would you advise them to do?
Yes, I think we are in a really strange time right now. Not strange, but different, because we're evolving pretty rapidly, where a lot of companies are now moving people remotely, and there is opportunity for more competition because now they're not tied to the office. So we have your big companies like Twitter and Reddit that are moving to, you can permanently work from home. I would suggest we, at organizations, focus on, again, like company culture and areas of inclusion, helping people to have autonomy in their projects, creativity, to be able to bring their full selves to work, to say, hey, I have this project idea. What do you think about this? I think diversity of thought is important from every aspect, from every person, to be able to say, I have these ideas and I want to, feel heard and important. Pay and benefits are good, but I think in this, like I said, in this environment, we don't know what's going to change, because those are nice to have, but as we've been in COVID and we've been in quarantine, attitudes may have shifted a little bit and say, well, maybe I value this more, or freedom more than pay. And we have to deal with those emerging attitudes and feelings, and companies should take note of that.
So kind of, and you have given some great advice and great tips throughout this, but what advice do you have for someone that is just, they've been considering getting into this field, or they've maybe tried it, and then their, life path just kind of took them a different way, and they want to get back started? What advice would you give to them that you kind of wish somebody would have once given to you?
I think one of the best things that happened to me was after I had my twins. I had twins in 2014, and that was the last. I have 3 kids, and I said, well, I really want to focus on how do I build a career from here, because I've had my children, and I'm kind of in a space where I've been just kind of coasting for a while. Now, what's the next level? What do I do next? And I came across some opportunity. I just Googled mentorship or training for developers or people that you want to do certain skills. And I came across a scholarship opportunity with Udacity, and I started taking classes there for, I applied for a scholarship for a front-end web development, like a nano degree program. And I got into it and I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is going to change everything. And it really did, because even though I had web development skills, what happened was I got some more foundations on top of that, plus a community of people around me to help support me and making sure that I was successful as well. So I had my other cohort of students that were online with me, as well as the instructors. And I mean, from there, it was just opportunity. I mean, I think the trajectory is like linear. It just kind of went up like this, because you have this community around you and there's more opportunities, and then you get more opportunities to go into conferences and meet new people, and you're just expanding your network to where now I'm in, through that, I got an opportunity to go to San Francisco and meet Google developers there. Then I ended up being a Women Tech Makers ambassador for Google, and then starting a whole meetup group here in Little Rock. So it just kind of, I mean, the training was one thing, and the network was something completely different that just kind of happened to go along with it. So find that cohort of people, train, build projects, go to the tutorials, find some tutorials to do online, build up your portfolio. I know there's a lot of things. Build up a portfolio based on those trainings that you have. Start building your own projects and find your community. There's, our meetup, there's several meetups in the area. You can just meet different people with the same interests as you, or a different interest. You'll find something else that you might want to do. So lots of different things you could do, but that networking and that training really helped me when I was mid-career.
Well, that is amazing advice, and we appreciate you sharing, your wisdom and insight, and kind of just answering those questions that we have, and many others do. So now I want to take a moment just to open up for Q&A. See if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask. I do have another question.
Okay.
But I was going to wait. I was going to share the floor. But, something that we've been hearing about so much in tech is, AI and automation of processes, and just how everything's changing even more. And so, as you think about that, and, automation affecting different processes, how do you think that the role of a developer will be affected or change?
I embrace automation. That's one of the things. I don't think it's something to fear. If you learn the automation process. One of the things that we've done here recently within the college is trying to change from a process where we had to gather lots of signatures and students had to get signatures for different projects. However, we have to move that whole approval process entirely online. And well, how do we do that? So we found like Microsoft Power Automate, and we try to figure out in DocuSign and or Adobe Sign, and we're trying to incorporate all these different tech components together to create this automated process. And that's now a new job, is overseeing the automation process of the new process. So be the person that is over the automation. And once you've automated one process, it gives you opportunity to be creative and learn something else or do some other great projects. So I'm all about, finding the improvements where you can, finding the process improvements where you can, so that you can go in and do even more.
Okay, well, great. All right. If nobody has any questions, I think we'll wrap it up.
Crystal, we do have one.
Yep, just joking. So what advice do you have for international students trying to get into the development field, but have limited employment opportunities.
Oh, wow. So is it because of visa processes or?
Yes.
Okay. That's so, my suggestions would be to, if you don't have a portfolio already, create one. Either just get your GitHub. If you have a GitHub already, try to get those projects on there and highlight your work that you've done. Get active on social media. Write some blog posts about what your interests are. Medium is a great area to get into, to write about the things that you're interested in. Also, Dev, I'm trying to think of what their website is. There's another developer community, DEV, that has some opportunities for you to write about your projects and what you're working on. Also, I cannot stress enough about LinkedIn. Get your LinkedIn profile to where you keep it updated regularly. You have a great profile and people will find you, even if it's for freelance work, because there's, you don't want to forget that there's opportunities there as well. So get yourself out there, get your LinkedIn profile to a great place. Twitter is also a great place for connecting with other developers and finding work. So get active out there and just highlight your GitHub profile if you have projects. If you don't, start taking some of those tutorials and create some projects and get them out there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, if that wraps it up, we appreciate everyone.
Hey, Crystal, I did actually get one more question, and it is, are there job opportunities for community-based programs that would assist in collecting and analyzing services? My degree is in software, but I want to stay in the field, but more along the lines of research and data. So I will start with that. We've got more details coming in. Okay, so for someone who's transitioning from different career fields, how would you go about seeking apprenticeships? I'm afraid managers may see my resume and think there's no relation between previous careers and jobs in IT. And it looks like previous career may have been in social work. So it might be something our talent team can help answer as well a little bit.
Absolutely. I don't know if someone online if someone from ACDS wants to answer, or I can. I mean, but I have the similar experience. One of the things that I struggled with was I had a very generic title that didn't align with what I did every day. There was one period of time where the job title that I had wasn't all inclusive of everything that I was capable of doing. And one of the things that is helpful is to, when you are applying for those jobs, is to kind of tweak the resume, not lie, but tweak the resume to be more in line with the job description that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a software development position and you have that experience, but it's not necessarily in your current job title or the job titles that you've had, you can put those pieces where you do align with the job description in your resume, and you can highlight those pieces to where your current job title may not matter as much. Hopefully that makes sense.
He did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody at ACDS have any? I know that they have apprenticeships programs and helping people find those jobs in the tech areas, but that would be my recommendation. If there's any other advise you
Yeah.
all.
So I think just to kind of throw the question back out there, the question was for someone transitioning from a different career field, how would you go about seeking an apprenticeship? And so I think the first comment is connect with ACDS, look at the positions and programs that we have open. They are employer demand driven. So, we place folks in apprenticeship programs as employers state their need and tell us those details. So definitely hop on the website, www.acds.co/careers, and you can look at all those different positions. And then our talent team does host webinars and various other resources on our website. So check them out and start there. And if you've got a particular question, you can always reach out to us via email as well. So
if I can hop in, Marie,
yeah,
after.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm a recruiter for ACDS, and so I would love to talk to you if you're interested. And I believe there's a spot on the application if you do find one of those job recs that's interesting to you. You can kind of put, I attended a day in the life, and Katie told me to reach out, and so we would love to hear from you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. We'll do for sure.
Thank you.
Great. Marie, am I missing any more?
We did have one come in from Allison. Any particular tutorials you recommend? So Nikiya, I think that's for you.
Oh, well, that depends on the field that you're getting into. For me, in the job that I do now, I would recommend Python or SQL tutorials. There's plenty online through several different platforms. I'm doing a LinkedIn course on SQL, so it should be available in December, I believe. So that's always going to be out there if you're in LinkedIn Learning. But also there's free ones that are also available. Coursera, Pluralsight. Google has a really great program that they're implementing right now for IT support. I don't know if that's going to do a lot of development work, but there's lots of tutorials out there. If you just Google tutorials, whatever subject that you're looking for. Udacity also has free classes, front end work. So when you're looking at front end, you're talking about your HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And back end work, for me, I work in the .NET framework. So a lot of our back end is programmed with C#. And then for the database, we have SQL Server. So I would just recommend doing some quick Google searches on tutorials. Let's see, Harvard has a free I think a Python class that's really good, Intro to Python. So if you're interested in Python, which is a great tool that you can use for both data science and web development, I would suggest looking into that.
And then I think there's one more, Marie.
Yes, we have one more. Our company is open to hiring older job seekers, 40 plus, entering the tech field.
That's a great question. I always ask, like, that's funny. I think I asked the question the other day. It does feel like you're like, well, how do I enter the tech industry when I'm 40 or older, and it seems like most of the people are right out of college in their 20s. But what was recommended to me was to go for it. If there's something that you really want to do, you have a skill set, you apply for that job. I can't speak for all companies if they're hiring older job seekers, but I think that as long as you can do the job and you're motivated to do the job, that you just go for it. I don't know if ACDCS has any other recommendations for that, but I can't speak for all companies, but I would say go for it anyway.
can jump in just as an ACDS voice, not to butt in Crystal and Marie,
No.
but I would just say definitely go for it. I think companies definitely see benefit in hiring somebody who has had a career experience before, and has those transitional skills. There are employers we talk to all the time that want somebody who can have a client facing relationship or a CEO facing relationship. And sometimes people just starting their career don't have those skill sets yet. So there's always positives. So go for it.
That's a great response. So another question, do you have any opportunities at UAMS?
I always check their job site, jobs.uams.edu. They have a specific area just for IT jobs if you're interested in that. Also, I would also look on LinkedIn. They have some of our team members and our recruiters will regularly go out there and look for candidates on LinkedIn. So I can't think of anything right now in our college, but UAMS is a very big institution and they're always looking for good talent. So yeah, check the site, jobs.ums.edu.
All right, thank you. Okay, any last questions? I don't want to jump the gun and wrap us up. Marie, anything I'm missing? All right. So thank you again, Nikiya, so much for taking the opportunity to speak with us and really just kind of let us pick your brain for the last hour or so. We appreciate everyone for joining us as well. And if you don't mind joining me in a round of applause for Nikiya.
Thank you.
Yay! Thank you. And just kind of before we go, we just want to encourage everyone to check out our website for the rest of this week's exciting events geared towards National Apprenticeship Week, and visit the ACDS website, acds.co, not .com, /calendar. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great day.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks.